The first years, on the way to success, there were tough times and there were fun times.
Yeah, well, you know, I think a lot of musicians have had tough times. You know, we sometimes swap stories as to who slept in the weirdest place. I've slept in an American Army barracks for 2 nights. I nearly got sent to Vietnam. They had an alert at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody got out of the place. I got under the bed. And it turned out to be a false alarm, I'm glad to say. Sam lives in Switzerland. In the old band I was with, they fell on very hard times in Europe. We had no van, we had no equipment, our equipment was broken. And we knew this person that knew Sam, and he went and asked if he'd like to manage the band, and he did, which is a very big surprise to us. And of course he has become a very interested person. He managed the band, he's managed the first 2 Supertramp albums, and he has become, I don't know, he's had a special interest in me, you know, which is, it's great, you know. He'll always turn up at the shows in Europe, and he takes an interest in my career, because obviously I was nothing when I met him, and I suppose it must be interesting to see somebody just come up like that.
Take my way, the highway that's up there. Get your kick on Route 66.
Well, it's a whole combination. Going back to the early days, I think it's the same as everybody's, with Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, and the rhythm and blues period, all the black rhythm and blues guys.
Yeah, but you run around the wheel. I heard that old lonesome cannonball. Yeah, but you run around. I hear that old lonesome cannonball. And I think about you, baby. The tears begin to fall.
Started in 1969. It was a guy by the name of Sam, who was a millionaire who lived in Switzerland, who started Supertramp. I knew him through working with another band, and that band was not too good. And he wanted to try again, and he suggested that I start writing music, and I did that for a few months over in Geneva in Switzerland in his house. And then we went over to London, and we advertised in a music magazine there called The Melody Maker. And we found the first version of Supertramp through that. That's where I met Roger Hodgson and the rest of those guys from the first band. I think for Supertramp it was very influenced by all the music in England at that time, which was Traffic, Jethro Tull, Procol Harum, Spooky Tooth. It was, you know, a whole movement of sort of more musical bands rather than showy bands. And I think that was very good for us, because we, you know, I don't think we were capable of being like a show soul band or something like that, you know. And we were very pleased to see that that sort of music was popular. Well, I suppose it's everything. Everything that's been absorbed over the years that catches your ear. I mean, you learn from the bad what not to do, and from the good what to do. And, you know, you listen every day to music, changing all the time. For Free as a Bird, well, it really, because the Brother Were Your Band album, a lot of the songs were written ahead of that, you know. And for Free as a Bird, I had to write quite a few new songs and start very much from scratch. And I think it was the first real test for Supertramp, starting from scratch, you know, to make an album. Some of the songs from Brother we'd played a little bit before, and we knew. But a lot of these songs on Free as a Bird are very new. I think we were an influence in the 70s, probably. You know, I think we helped the keyboards in rock situation along. A lot of bands using keyboards. We were part of that, I think. But we were kind of a strange band to try and be influenced by. I think we're a little bit unusual, especially with Roger, with some of his strange sort of high voices and his tunes. You know, very difficult to imitate. Well, yeah, I think a lot of people that write songs or, you know, are creative in any way, and especially if they're successful, you get to a point where you want to sit back and maybe watch somebody else's talent or something instead of continuing yourself. But in the end, you get a really bad conscience about not really making the most of yourself. And you always feel better when you actually go out and try and work and do things and create things and move on. But it's very easy to sit and do nothing. So, I mean, it's to everybody. I think it's up to the individual to find out if they have any, and if they have, they should use it. You know, not everybody can be, you know, a creative person, but there's a lot of people out there that can be, that maybe they don't use their talent, you know. Crowd, I mean, obviously they knew a lot of the songs, and we were just trying not to disappoint them, you know, with anything going wrong or, you know, various problems that can happen on a show, especially a first show of a tour. It's kind of, you know, we were desperately wanting them to enjoy that show. Hopefully most of them did. I agree with the general opinion that John and the Beatles and, you know, Dylan, usually the obvious talents, I think, exactly pointed the way to do things. You know. Thank you, Beatles. It was the rise from, you know, the everyday struggle to, in the small clubs and things, to, you know, the other side of the fence. Some good luck. A good piece of luck and a good time.
Great. All right, so kicking it off, we're going to go with the first song, which I believe, from what I've heard, is the most important song in your life, Drumming Man.
Yeah, that's what got me into music. My parents bought a radiogram, they used to call it, from somebody, and it had some records in there. And one of them was Drumming Man by Gene Krupa. And that's when I got the bug. And I started to play the drums. So, well, that was my, you know, first love. I was always a bit nervous that I could be good enough on the drums.
Right.
I slowly got better. I had lessons. I was prepared to try and make my living at it. But nobody wanted my drumming. They wanted the piano. So.
Yeah, what you didn't get to see and hear is Rick singing the words to that.
I know. Well,
word for word. But that Gene Krupa was an interesting guy. Did you ever get to meet him?
No,
he passed away pretty early.
No. It was a while before I even knew what he looked like because, you know, in England, we never really saw him.
Right.
And then he was on a film called about the Big Beat or something, and I saw him playing. Black and white movie, and it scared me to death, you know, because I couldn't see his hands moving.
Yeah, when I was a kid. So that started it for you, and then how did you get to the piano?
Well, I started listening to the rock and roll of the day, Chuck Berry and Fats Domino, and I used to mess around on the piano before I had my tea at my neighbor's place because my mother would be working, so I always had my dinner after school at this place with a piano. So I would, her son told me how to play some boogie-woogie. I started listening to Jimmy Reed and all these old blues guys, which was starting to happen a bit. And, that's how I got into it. And then when, later, I got into it, but I couldn't play the guitar. So that's why I got an electric piano, because it was as close as I could get to a guitar.
Yeah.
So it had that electric sound, but, you play it like a piano, so...
Never play guitar.
No. I tried one time, and I got one from Woolworths. It had buttons on the neck. You could change the chord.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. That's the easy way to play a guitar. So then your artists like Fats Domino had a definite impression on you.
So this song, Nothing New, Same Old Thing. Talk to me about that.
Well, the first band I had, I guess, in the early days as an amateur was Rick's Blues, I called it. And this was one of the numbers we did, a Fats Domino number. And we loved Fats and, simple as that. I mean, they were nice and easygoing to play and seemed to suit my voice, so...
Oh, you got a good range on your voice.
Yeah.
Still.
I know you still do. It's really strong.
Oh, good. Well, it's good because I can't hear it half the time.
Exactly.
Great. I know a few years ago you had a little bout with some multiple myeloma, is that right?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't do much at that time. Couldn't hardly, sing or play or do anything. And... but thanks to, local musicians coming around eventually, I started playing in the basement. I have a little studio there.
Right.
And, got to start doing stuff. And Ron Delsner,
sure,
he lives down the street from me.
When you were young with Supertramp, you had that hair, man.
Oh, yeah.
It was seriously good hair.
I couldn't afford a barber, though.
Well, you've got a good head of hair
you
still.
You had that good hair.
But you still do.
Yeah, still has his hair.
Seriously.
Still has good.
So, all right, so with that last one was Joe Morello, Just in Time.
Well,
right?
he became my sort of hero as a drummer. That was my kind of final phase as my drum phase was going out. Joe became the man, who could do anything on the drums.
Right.
And so I thought it'd be nice to put something on of his.
I love that. But you mentioned that you don't really... Do you listen to a lot of jazz normally?
I listen to quite a bit, I would say I do. A little bit of classical music sometimes, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I don't get into, too much rap. I must be honest about that. I don't think about the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. It just doesn't appeal to me or anything.
No?
It doesn't mean anything to me.
No, but you've made music, so there it is. That speaks for itself, right? Oh, if you want to talk about your legacy and things, the music that you have that's going to be around forever.
I know. I can't wait to get to your music. Well, first of all, the next song we're going to play is the first band you were in, The Joint.
Well, the first time I went on the road with these guys in the, I guess, late 60s or actually mid-60s. Band called The Lonely Ones they were when I joined, started by Noel Redding, actually.
Oh.
Of the, Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was playing guitar in those days, and he'd left by the time I got there. But I got out of my hometown and went down there and joined these guys playing an organ, which I'd never played in my life. They said, "Do you play organ?" I said, "Yes."
You're a very wise man.
My mother...
Of course I play the organ.
My mother sort of got, higher purchase, we called it. Got an organ, a Vox Continental organ. And off I went and played with these guys for about 3 years. We ended up in Europe, stuck there for about 2.5 years with nothing, no manager, no record company, nothing. Just getting gigs off, our own backs. And we ended up trying to be Yes and the nice ELP type of thing.
Yeah.
And we met this guy in Europe who composed these crazy things, and we were trying to make sense of this music and get a deal.
Yeah.
And with this, it didn't suit us. We were really a kind of a white soul band in a way. We were playing all Motown stuff, and we ended up being handled by a guy called Stanley Augustus Miesegeis, who was a millionaire out of Geneva in Switzerland.
Okay.
And what happened was we made this record, or demo it was, and to try and get a deal. And what you're going to hear is this incredibly insane track that we made called Turnstile, and it's very, very long. I think 2 minutes will do it.
But that was your second band, I guess, right? Or was it your first band?
They were, every time we went somewhere, we had to change the name so we could go back.
If you had a manager, it'd be like, so like, look, the lads are going to come back. The name is not The Joint. The name right now is separate.
No, exactly.
The manager talked like this, actually.
Did he? Oh, you were the manager.
The manager was from Harrow, Eton, and Oxford.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, really?
Very educated. He lived in Geneva, very wealthy, drove a Aston Martin.
Yeah, you said he was a millionaire.
Flew his own plane.
Wow.
He was quite something.
But you could tell right there, that's pretty intricate what you guys were doing.
Sort of, yeah. It was based on this guy, David Llewellyn, his name was. He was a composer, so it wasn't our music, but
right.
We were trying to make something of it.
You had a little Patrick Moraz, Rick Wakeman going in there. Yeah,
I knew Patrick Moraz, actually.
Really?
He's from Geneva.
Yes.
And he knew this manager.
Did he really?
Sam Miesegeis, yeah.
All right, so our next song, I'm very excited that we're getting to this, is a Supertramp song.
Yeah.
This
Surely.
is the very first thing we ever put on a record.
Seriously.
The very first, and one of my first songs that I ever wrote, so...
I'm so excited.
You're so humble. I love this. This song is called Shirley.
Surely.
You own all the stuff.
The
But
first two records, I don't think you can get them on Spotify.
no, you can't get the first two records on Spotify. That's
No.
the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
Now, but those were printed in vinyl.
Yeah, but they did come out on CDs. I mean, they did actually quite well when we became more well known. Then
Sure.
people went back and got the old stuff, so they actually sold over the years.
Well, everybody is coming out with these remastered, stuff on vinyl.
Yeah.
Would you think about doing that again?
Some of the stuff I want. I don't know about that song, but maybe some of it. You know.
Really pretty.
Really,
Those
really
chords
pretty.
are great.
Yeah, that was. Well,
And is that your
after
voice? Are you singing?
No, that's Roger.
Okay.
He sang it, and we had the guitar player actually wrote the words to that. He was only in that band for the one album. Richard Palmer James.
Okay.
He did some stuff for King Crimson, lyrics and stuff like that. He played guitar. He ended up in Munich when we played there at a club, and he never left. He met somebody, married her, and he's still there to this day.
Oh,
Really?
sort of like moving to East Hampton when you meet somebody in Amityville. Sue. Well, you met her in the city. You were living in the city then, right, Sue? Yeah. The next song is from Procol Harum.
I love this Salty Dog. Talk to me about this.
Well, when we started Supertramp, we had a few records in a cottage in England. We all went down there to try and get it together, see what we were going to do. And one of the albums was, Jethro. We had Jethro Tull, we had Spooky Tooth, and Procol Harum.
Wow.
That was all the sort of bands we wanted to be influenced by. So I just thought it would be nice to, go back to some of those influences. And, Salty Dog's such a nice song anyway.
Yeah.
Got that nice vibe to it.
Exactly. So, from your version, I just asked Sue how you guys met. I want to hear your version.
Let's see. She met I think she met the band at the airport when we actually landed.
Oh, really?
And she was sort of in charge of looking after people that came in. And
when you first came to America?
Yeah. 1970.
That must have been a fun job.
1974. Yeah. She was working at the office up in A&M Records at the old Fuller building, I believe. And I thought, well, she's pretty nice.
Well, Sue, such a glowing recommendation. First impression.
How many years have you been married?
40.
She's answering it again.
Yeah. 46.
46.
I try not to say it.
See, for some guys. We have one that I know a lot of folks have not heard, right? This next song?
Forever.
Yeah.
All right, talk to us about that.
Or Forever. Maybe it's a lot of Supertramp, real Supertramp fans have heard that. Yeah, really. But it's pre Breakfast in America.
Pre-Crime of the Century.
Crime of the Century, that's right.
Yeah, it was on the second album we did, and I don't know, it was something I wanted to do. It's just actually live in the studio when we did it, and I actually did it about at Christmas time. I played it at my goddaughter's wedding.
Oh, wow.
First time I played it for years, and it was also on my wedding ring, which I lost, and I've lost a few wedding rings, unfortunately.
All right, let me help defend.
It actually was a very, very mild sort of hit over here in the very early days, just on a few stations,
album-oriented
stations here and there. Yep.
Was that the thing that when you were putting the group together and you got Supertramp together, was like you wanted a hit in America? Was that the big thing?
Well, yeah. At that time,
you were big at home already.
We were getting there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the object was to go over and try and make it in the States. And we came over. We were going to stay for 2 years, but we came and we never left.
92.1 WLNG. You've got Lunch on the Deck with Bill Evans, Jessica Ambrose, and our guest, Rick Davies.
Yep.
And that song from Supertramp is Forever. And you said that was the simplest song you've ever written.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, though. I love that.
Well, if you can get it simple and still good, that's the way to go.
Well, that's rock and roll, right? But
Keep it simple, baby.
You have to tell us a little bit of the background, because Sue says that was the song that you danced to at your wedding.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, actually, Roger, my partner, sang it, and it didn't really suit his voice, but we danced to it.
Right.
And then at Christmas, I played it for our goddaughter's wedding, and got the band to play it and sing it again. So
that's nice. That's lovely. You got married on Long Island. See, those Long Island marriages seem to last.
Yeah, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there you go. That's a beautiful song. You might redo that one, put that on a vinyl?
I wouldn't mind trying to rework it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love that. All right, going into Honky Tonk.
Yeah, a little Bill Doggett.
So let's talk about that.
Well, that's one of my big influences, Bill Doggett Combo. It's an instrumental group. They had a big hit, Honky Tonk, years ago. But I have literally almost hundreds of tracks by Bill Doggett's Combo, which the great thing about them was it was a real band. It wasn't studio. They were out there playing all the time. Bill Doggett arranged all the stuff. It's mostly saxophone players and a great guitar player. And it's just, I listen to it all the time, still to this day.
With Lunch on the Deck with our guest, Rick Davies. You've got Bill Evans, Jessica Ambrose, and that song, To Kingdom Come, the band. Talk to me about that, Rick.
That's the first time we really heard something really happening in the music business when we were finishing up with the joint band in Geneva.
Okay. Right.
Somehow that record ended up in the music from Big Pink. The album ended up over in the house there, and everybody was just like, well, we couldn't actually comprehend it to start with.
Right.
And realized we got some work to do. So
you're like, we need to up our game.
Yeah. It was just so good. And
in your career, you have really seen the evolution of the electric keyboard. really from the beginning, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Well, you mean like the Wurlitzer electric piano?
Yeah. The Wurlitzer, and then you had Robert Moog came along with the Moog synthesizer. And now you've got these keyboards that are...
Well, I remember the first time because, on stage we used sort of strings or imitation strings. And I remember the first time we found a thing that could actually sound slightly like the strings, which I thought was great because I'd much sooner use... keyboard strings and real people. Yeah,
right, that electronic.
Just over the top, having orchestra.
On an orchestra, yeah. So labor cost involved in that, too.
We had this tiny little keyboard called an Elka, I think it was, and it was very primitive, but we managed to get through some of the songs with it.
Wow. Now, what keyboard are you playing now?
Well, I'm just playing a Yamaha Pro electric keyboard. It's really got a good piano, real piano sound,
right,
and then a reasonable electric piano sound. I'm not one to mess around with buttons too much. Right. I just press one button, it's keyboard. One button, it's electric piano. So
to
I found
hell with all of this tuning stuff here. I just want a piano.
So that's what if I go to the Talkhouse and play, that's what I take with me.
So when you go to play at the Talkhouse, you just bring the Yamaha keyboard.
Yep, they have everything else.
They've got everything else.
The PA, they've got the drums, they've got the mics.
So when you're at home, though, on an afternoon, when you've got nothing to do, is that what you do, sit down and just tinker?
In the morning.
Okay.
When I get up fairly early, I go down there and I've got a studio down there and play along with tapes and make my demos and do stuff. I love it.
Nice.
I'm sure it never gets boring.
No.
That keeps you busy. Exactly. Are you playing with a band at Talkhouse, or it's just you?
No.
You got the band, right?
I've got everybody. I've got, GE's playing.
Right, that's right. I forgot GE's playing with you.
We have Mike Riley on bass.
Good. Oh, my God.
Mike Riley from Pure Prairie League?
Yeah, this is our whole...
You're going to have brass and sax and all that?
Well, I have Scott Kreisner, who is a fantastic sax guy. Brad Beyer, you might know.
Yes,
he's going to play some harp, sing, and play a few keyboards.
Nice.
We got a guy from all the way from Patchogue coming.
Wow.
That's
bringing in the
kid's
big
come
guns.
a long
Bill
way.
Donnelly, drummer. Bill Donnelly.
Nice.
That's incredible.
And also an extra guitar player, because he's been playing a little bit with me, Bosco. You might know Bosco.
Oh.
Whose idea when you put the Supertramp music together with a tuba and a trombone, or it was trombone and trumpet and sax, and was that an influence of yours?
It come from probably.
Yeah.
Roger always wanted the strings and a little more lighter things. I was more of a rock and roll guy.
Yeah.
Roger was he was 6 years younger than me. He was a Beatle guy, and I was a Chuck Berry guy. So it was a difference.
Because when I went to Supertramp concerts, you guys had the sax player did a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Was that Halliwell? Was that
Johnny Halliwell?
Yes, that's right. You still went back to England to see your mom up until she passed away at Christmas time.
Once in a while we would. Unfortunately, that's a while ago now. I don't really have anybody there.
Yep.
So my family is all here. Amityville.
With the sharks.
His lovely wife Sue is from Amityville, lifeguard, surfer, right? And and they've been together 44 years, which is just lovely.
46. Don't take a single day away.
You can take that out on me. 46.
46.
Is it okay if I ask you about Roger? Is that okay?
Sure.
Oh, so how are you guys?
Well, to be honest, we're miles and miles apart as far as.
Well, he's in L.A., right?
No, he's in Florida, I think.
Oh, okay. But you're miles and miles apart.
But we don't really contact much anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but
but do I read this right in that you kind of are okay with each other in that he's touring, playing Supertramp songs, right? And you own the Supertramp songs.
Well,
you own the copyright.
We both do.
You both do.
Yeah.
So, but that's not an argument.
No.
That's okay.
No.
It's not like Styx where they've been fighting each other in court for 30 years. You know, you guys are okay with all that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, stuff goes on. It's kind of hard to talk about, really. But
if you wanted to do what we were talking about, put some of this stuff onto vinyl and remaster some of this stuff, you guys would be okay with that.
Yeah, you can redo things.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
Well, it's you did magical things together, so I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, we had we lasted much longer than most bands do. So
exactly, and it's hard. A partnership is, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, Simon and Garfunkel came out with their biggest album, and right when it came out the next day, they broke up.
Yeah,
you know, so
exactly.
You guys did make some great music together for a while, and longer than most, as you said, and. Here at this stage in both of your lives, you know, you're doing great. You're a humble guy. You're a sweetheart, and you don't need the drama.
No, I don't. Absolutely not. No, I'm very sort of content. Well, health is the number one.
Yes,
exactly.
But your health is great. I mean, you got through cancer, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah. I'm still on the chemo, and I think I always will be.
Right.
With myeloma, so.
Right. Well, good for you. And you're playing the Talk House. You're playing some gigs, and
yeah, I love to ride my electric bicycle around. That's my big help.
Empty pages, Traffic.
Well, one of our big influences was Traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can hear it.
And the early, you know, days, Roger was kind of pleased that I started singing a bit more, and because we thought just one singer in the band was a little bit boring, and so between Traffic and then Spooky Tooth with Gary Wright, and, you know, Harrison, and so that type of thing. It was like having more than one singer was pretty nice. So. And then Steve Winwood is in a class by himself.
Totally.
So,
16 years old player with Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
With Spencer
Incredible.
Davis. Do you know Spencer Davis? Did you get to meet him?
We met him one time, yeah. He was in the studio when we were doing, I think it might have been Breakfast, actually, in L.A., yeah. So we did meet him.
And, of course, Steve Winwood.
No, at the time he was doing something by himself, you know. He was walking around saying, well, when Stevie was with me.
You're playing at the Talk House. Will you sing?
I'm the only singer.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. In that list of that you just told me, you're the only singer out of the whole group, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What he's saying is he works alone.
But we have lots of, you know, solos and, you know, interesting things going on. It's not just, you know, I'll sing a couple of choruses, then you've got saxophone, you've got guitars and harmonicas. And,
Yeah, but your voice, I mean, it's amazing how strong it is.
If you're coming to the Talk House, the thing about your voice is you do have this baritone voice. And you also can sing the high notes.
Yes. Yeah, falsetto.
Yeah.
I do that a little bit sometimes. Well, what's interesting about this next piece is I also am the Supertramp's harp player, which you may have heard me on Take the Long Way Home.
Yes,
and
that's you playing the harp.
School. I did that.
Now, I want to ask this. When you played the harp of that, it has this lovely echoey sound.
Yeah, it's mystery, we called it.
Yes. I want to ask. Now, the rumor was you did it in the bathroom and put the microphone in there to get that echoey sound. No?
On the record?
Yeah.
No, I really can't remember. I can't exactly remember how we got it. I just remember when we started using it on, we used to open with a number called School.
Right.
And it was just the harmonica.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it changed everything about our live performance because it drew people in immediately.
Right.
And then we started using the lights and the...
Right, you were in the dark. I remember that. And
but we, you know, used movies and lights and slides and stuff. So it was the beginning of becoming more of a concert band, and rather than just people dancing on stage and you know, dancing around.
When you guys came up with all of that, was that you and Roger that came up with? Because you had a lot of video, slides, all of that. You guys choreographed that, and you talked about it. And you got somebody to. We
heard about one of the groups we kind of liked was King Crimson.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
love!
I never got to see them, But we had In the Court of the Crimson King, and, that was one of the records we had in the cottage we were working. And we heard that they synchronized a lot of the music with the visual, and that really appealed to me. I'm an old art student, so I thought we can make use of this. And we didn't have Mick Jagger to run around or anything, so
That's right.
I think it made perfect sense to try and make it a complete visual and audio thing.
Right.
So,
I found it to be sort of like Pink Floyd a little bit.
well,
Now the Eagles are doing that. Like every song is choreographed.
Everybody's got some visual now. But,
they got all choreographed
of
music.
course. But this thing was when I was young and I wanted to play blues like Jimmy Reed and stuff. I had this record by Shaky Jake, and it's an unusual record because he's a blues guy, but he's playing with two great jazz people. Not on this track, but he's just with the guitar guy. But I learned most of what Shaky did on that record. That's how I got to learn how to play the harp.
All right, here we go. Shaky Jake.
Spoil Your Baby, it's called, right?
We're living our best life. You think you're living your best life right now? You've escaped cancer. You're very healthy. You're playing keyboard, waking up every day working. You live with the lovely Sue. Yeah.
Every day's a bonus.
Sue got you on the chemo, and you got him on the health food. And the green drink, and
she gets all my pills.
Yeah. What is your favorite food? I mean, if you had to indulge in something, what do you like?
I like lamb chops and cauliflower cheese.
What?
Really? Is that did I say the wrong?
No, it sounds so delicious.
She makes them.
I was waiting for you to say fish and chips. I'm sorry.
What's the matter with you? You think everybody that comes across the pond eats fish and chips?
That's what came to mind, okay?
So she must be quite a little snappy cook.
Pretty much gourmet.
Yeah.
I should be 400 pounds.
All right, so gone Hollywood. Talk to me.
All right. Yep. That's opening track for breakfast.
Yeah.
First one.
Some good Halliwell on there at the end.
Great. So Halliwell's on the sax. I heard also that he was he in the bathroom on some of those tracks to get the echo?
He was for the Logical song.
Logical song. He was in the bathroom.
That's where he did his solo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was the first once-off solo. He tried to beat it, but he couldn't.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's in the bathroom. You run a microphone down the hall, and where was this recorded?
Village Recorders, I think, wasn't it? Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We got Rick Davies with us. If you just joined us here on Lunch on the Deck with Bill and Jessica, his lovely wife Sue is here. That's just a really cool sound.
Yeah, it really is.
When you guys are putting that together, I mean, that had to be like, hey, we really got something here. We got this whole sound that nobody has.
It took us forever, to the point of driving people crazy. Every time they wanted it, we had to push it back. And then every time we pushed it back, we got more advanced orders. So we thought, well, we'll just keep making it.
Right.
And sure enough.
That's a good problem to have.
It's like people knew before it even came out it was going to be something.
They were waiting for it. Exactly.
You guys, for those years, though, too, you did a lot of tour dates those years. I mean, you guys worked hard.
To do quite a bit, mostly in Europe. We played, Actually, our French promoter is coming to the show, the one that was been with us for 50 years.
Wow.
Is that right?
His name is Pascal Bernardin. And we played the first show in Paris to 15 people.
Oh, my God.
And my partner, Roger, wanted to do an encore. I said, I don't want to do an encore for 15 people. He said, why don't you put it to the band? The band voted to do the encore. Next thing you know, 3 years later, we're one of the biggest foreign bands in France. So
wow.
I think they were right. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
That's awesome.
There you go.
All right, our next song, Jethro Tull, probably had a huge...
Yeah, another of the band of that era when we were starting out. And actually saw them rehearsing in a little, about the same size as this, a little cabin where they were rehearsing for an album. And we were trying to figure out how to record and all the rest of it. And as I had to walk through where they were playing, and I thought it was all there. There was no trickery.
Yeah.
Everything was right there. There was no trickery. It was like they were playing it, and it sounded just like the record right there. So
that was Ian was there, and did you get to?
So I said, well, we have to play it right.
Yeah, exactly. So this song, though, was a huge influence for you. Did you just listen to it all the time?
Which one?
Taj Mahal. Lonely. I'm going back to the song.
Oh, Lonely Avenue. Well, we used to do it in the old Rick's Blues days, like in the 60s when I started out with the electric piano. Actually, it was a Ray Charles version that was the original, which was very good too, of course.
So this is, what's that you've got?
It's a Fats Domino number.
Oh, Fats Domino. Yeah. It is Ricky and the Rockets. I love the name. Yeah. Hold on. I'm just going to make sure I've got it.
Yeah, if that's Fats' song, What You Got?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sound.
What's that you got?
What that you got? Make you think you so hot. What that you got? Make you think you so hot. Is it really made of gold? Will I satisfy my soul? What that you got? Make you think you so hot. Please tell me why my eyes pop when you come around. And in the mailman, 'cause it's you he bit his tail around. What have you got? Make you think you so hot. Please tell me why my eyes pop when you come around. And in the mailman, 'cause it's you he wears his tail and crown. What have you got? Make you think you so hot. That make you think you so hot. Make you think you're so hot.
Wow.
That was great.
All right, that was live from Talkhouse. I love that. That recording was pretty great. I
Yeah.
was expecting it to not
Nice
be as
job.
clear.
No, it's no.
Your pipes sound great.
Well, thank you.
Seriously.
You're like Michael McDonald. Every time we'd interview him, he'd be like, yeah, the Doobie Brothers are doing just fine. We're having a great tour. And then it's like, what a fool, baby. It's like you still have the range.
Yeah, I don't do much falsetto anymore. I probably, if I did it more and more, I could do it, but not quite as much as I used to.
You ever have polyps or anything on your throat or any
I only
issues?
missed one gig. Not missed it. they made me do this gig because they didn't want, to lose the, have to redo the gig and everything. It was in Strasbourg in France, and I had to talk the show,
Oh.
It was a early morning yesterday. We got one of the best reviews in the world.
Yeah, but you played, right?
We did it.
You still did it anyway. That's the mark of a true professional. Cannonball you wrote, and that is a wonderful song.
Right. That was the first...
That's off the first...
Roger left.
Yep.
I think it was 84, 85?
Yep.
85. And... it's just the song had been around a little bit, a few years before. I had to work it up into what it was, but it was basically a real groove thing, which was not our normal thing. In fact, if you play the note G, you can play it all the way through the song and it won't sound wrong.
Is that right?
Yeah, just a few different chords going around it. So
right.
It's basically a groove,
Right.
So,
well, that's rock and roll.
That's really funny. Okay, listen for the G.
Yeah. What did you think about a Music Box Broadway show with Supertramp music?
We've had people try and make, I guess a complete story out of our albums.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of nixed it because it never quite made sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
You'd have to, I think, to truly do it, you'd have to really rework a lot of the lyrics and stuff. It's quite complicated to do it well.
Right.
Yeah, or your life. Okay, so this song, the reason I really wanted to hear this, The Meeting Place, I want you to tell, this is the coolest thing to me, what you were just talking about.
Well, okay, so on a record we did called Crime of the Century, there was a song called Rudy, where it was a train coming from, I guess, from my hometown in England called Swindon to London.
Okay.
And then when I was in Swindon growing up, there was a factory hooter that went every morning. Type of thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put this on the track, Rudy track. And I went down with John, our sax guy, with a tape recorder to try and get it. And we got there and we were told they'd stopped doing it 2 weeks before.
You even?
After all these years, I woke up with it every morning, my whole life. So once I heard this album by XTC, who are from Swindon, right?
Yeah.
They had a great album called Skylarking, and that one of the tracks opens up with the hooter. So they found the hooter before it.
So they.
On Rudy, the song on the album, we have the actual station, Paddington Station in London, with the actual guy doing the announcements.
Right,
he just held up a mic, and so it's the real thing.
Listen to that again. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, tell us about Goodbye Stranger. What all went into that? Because that's a classic American rock and roll song.
Okay, it's just from Breakfast in America. I think I wrote it in L.A., in North Hollywood. Had a little house there, first house we ever bought. And just needed some songs. That was one of them. And I noticed that the songs were shorter and more singly.
Well, it was because record producers said, 2 minutes and you're done.
Really, it's just the way, that they came out. And, without, like, Nervous Wreck and, other ones that were on there, Logical Song.
Yeah.
They were all kind of short, singly.
Right.
And, of course, we went out on tour with it, and every time we played, the record sold. So that was a perfect timing thing.
Right.
And we ended up using Goodbye Stranger to finish the show and then walk off.
Yeah.
And, hopefully get an encore.
Yeah. Right. What determined you having an encore?
Huh?
What if you guys played, let's just say you play The Garden and you finish with Goodbye Stranger, and if you get a rounding applause, what would you...
The business sort of insists that you do it on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And originally we didn't do encores. And the record company went bananas because, they thought it looked rude that people wanted.
More.
But we thought done everything we should do.
Yeah, leave them wanting more.
Well, we don't want to dilute it by playing something
Frank
else.
Sinatra never did encore.
Exactly. You're like, wait, what?
Because he did it his way.
Right.
So but on the end of Goodbye Stranger, you guys just wail on the end of that song.
Yeah. Well, that was.
I mean, when that comes out,
That's it.
I mean, you just take off at the end of that song. So which I was many times at your concerts. I went to your concerts so many times growing up because when you played Goodbye Stranger, everybody's lit.
Yeah. Well, they're all ready to let it go.
Yeah.
The end of the show, and
It was just you needed an encore to kind of come down a little bit.
Well, yeah,
because you were just all lathered up after the end of that song.
That's right. Yep.
Exactly. All right. Well, what a perfect way to be be out then.
Thank you, Rick.
again. Goodbye, stranger. Supertramp, our guest.
Thank you, Sue.
Rick
Sue and
Davies.
Rick, the Davies.
Thank you so much. Going out with a bang.